A couple weeks ago, Luke Belmar was sued by a former business partner alleging fraud. I made a video detailing the lawsuit, hope you watched, but he was also getting cooked on the X timeline, including this post right here. It was getting a lot of attention. Steve recently went on some podcasts talking about the situation, so we got a lot to react to.
He sold you the dream. It was a beautiful, intoxicating vision of a life beyond the ordinary, a life of multi-million-dollar fortunes, of escaping the monotonous grind of the matrix, and of becoming a sovereign individual, unbound by the rules that govern the rest of us. He's that guy on your social media feed, perpetually draped over a glistening supercar, staring thoughtfully from the window of a private jet, or delivering cryptic monologues from a tropical villa, dropping what he frames as world-altering secrets about his supposed e-commerce and crypto fortunes. But according to a bombshell federal lawsuit, the dream Luke Belmar was so artfully selling was a complete and total nightmare for his own business partner. And the entire shimmering empire was allegedly built on a foundation of meticulously crafted lies. This is no longer the stuff of internet gossip forums or skeptical comment threads. We are now in the world of federal court, a place where allegations are made under penalty of perjury and evidence is king. We're talking about official court documents filed in a U.S. district court that lay out a narrative of staggering betrayal. We have these filings, and they tell a story that is infinitely darker and more complex than any hustle culture highlight reel you've ever seen. This is a story of alleged fraud on a massive scale, of calculated backstabbing between partners, and of a premeditated digital heist so audacious it could bring Luke Belmar's entire world and the powerful persona he has built crashing down around him. The lawsuit paints a devastating picture of a man who didn't just build a globally recognized brand on his partner's dime, but who then allegedly stole the entire company, methodically locking out the very man who funded it and leaving him with absolutely nothing. The narrative has been flipped on its head. From viral videos preaching financial and spiritual freedom to damning federal court filings alleging multi-million-dollar fraud, the story of Luke Belmar has taken a dramatic, public, and potentially catastrophic turn. And tonight, we're going to tear it all apart, piece by damning piece, allegation by shocking allegation. To truly grasp the sheer scale and audacity of this alleged betrayal, you have to understand how it all began. This wasn't some casual, thrown-together venture. It was presented as a strategic alliance between two titans of the online business world, Luke Belmar and Steve Tan. If you aren't deeply embedded in the e-commerce and digital marketing space, you might not be familiar with the name Steve Tan. But within that world, many consider him an OG, a quiet giant who has been in the trenches for years. He is a Singaporean entrepreneur who, alongside his brother, has a long and verifiable track record of actually building, scaling, and managing the complex machinery of digital businesses. He's the systems guy, the architect. He understands the back end, the marketing automation, the payment processing infrastructure, the global logistics for live events, all the complicated, unglamorous, and absolutely essential work that allows an online company to function and, more importantly, make millions of dollars. He was, as the partnership was designed, the engine. And then there's Luke Belmar, whose real name is Lucas Emmanuel Uria Theus. He is the magnetic frontman, the master of personal branding, the charismatic figure who can mesmerize millions with tales of dropping out of college and amassing tens of millions of dollars through sheer will and esoteric knowledge. For years, he has painstakingly polished this persona, the enlightened digital nomad, the man who hasn't just cracked the code on making money, but on life itself. He speaks in a captivating blend of hustle culture, biohacking, and spiritual philosophy, talking about seeing data patterns others miss, achieving true sovereignty, and, above all, escaping the matrix. And it was wildly effective. He cultivated a massive following of millions who hung on his every word, desperate to learn the secrets to his seemingly untouchable success. In early 2022, these two very different worlds collided. Steve Tan and Luke Belmar officially partnered to create Capital Club, a private community for aspiring entrepreneurs. According to the lawsuit, the agreement was dead simple and founded on mutual trust, a split ownership of everything. The division of labor was perfectly aligned with their respective strengths. Steve Tan was the operational and financial backbone. He handled the funding, the complex technological systems, the marketing infrastructure, and the global logistics for their high-ticket events. Luke Belmar was the face. He was the brand, the voice, and the magnetic personality of Capital Club, leveraging his enormous online following to draw in members and create the allure. And Steve Tan didn't just bring his expertise, he brought the capital. The court filings allege that Steve poured a staggering amount of his own money into getting Capital Club off the ground, a claimed investment of over $4.15 million. Let's break that figure down because its components are critical to understanding the stakes. The lawsuit alleges this sum included over $3.1 million for media buys and marketing, the very fuel for Luke's omnipresence online, another nearly $1 million just for payroll to staff their global operation, and over $340,000 in interest-free loans just to keep the corporate lights on. This was never a side hustle. It was a massive, globally scoped operation from day one, and according to the lawsuit, it was Steve Tan's money that was fueling its explosive, seemingly overnight growth. The initial results were nothing short of insane. When Capital Club officially opened its doors for annual memberships in late 2023, the response was overwhelming. The company allegedly pulled in over $2.2 million in revenue in the single month of October, and in its first 3 months of operation, it cleared over $4.2 million from subscriptions alone. On paper, and to the outside world, it was a phenomenal success story. The partnership was firing on all cylinders. The charismatic face of the brand was converting followers into paying customers, and the operations guru was ensuring the business could handle the massive influx without collapsing under its own weight. It looked like the perfect union of talent, but behind the scenes, hidden from the view of their adoring members, a completely different and much darker story was allegedly taking shape. While thousands of members were joining Capital Club to chase their dreams of financial freedom, the lawsuit claims the company's very foundation was being systematically eroded by greed and deception. The suit alleges this wasn't a simple business disagreement. It was a premeditated plot by one partner to defraud and dispossess the very man who had funded the entire enterprise from its inception. Before we can dissect the mechanics of the alleged betrayal, you have to fully appreciate the persona. Luke Belmar's brand isn't just about making money, it's a complete philosophical ecosystem. It is a perfectly polished, endlessly curated image of a man who operates on a higher plane of existence. He's not just rich, he's enlightened. He's not just successful, he's sovereign. This meticulously crafted persona is the absolute key to understanding the allegations in this lawsuit because it is this very image of untouchable, lone wolf genius that, according to Steve Tan, was a carefully constructed illusion from the very beginning. The lawsuit points to a pattern of behavior that many online critics and watchdog channels have flagged for years: the fake guru playbook. It's a well-documented strategy allegedly used by a multitude of online personalities to build an empire from what is, essentially, nothing. The playbook almost always begins with a dramatic backstory of insane, nearly unbelievable financial success. For Luke, this meant vague but persistent claims of making tens of millions of dollars from dropshipping and crypto before he was ever a household name in the influencer space. These stories, which are consistently fuzzy on verifiable details, specific timelines, or any form of concrete proof, are designed to do one thing: build unquestionable authority. If you can be convinced that a man made $20 million on his own, you are infinitely more likely to drop a few $1,000s on his course or membership to learn his secrets. According to reports and the claims made by Steve Tan, even Luke's massive follower count wasn't exactly the product of organic growth. It's alleged that a significant portion of his audience was acquired through purchased followers and hyper-aggressive content distribution strategies. This isn't a strategy of making great videos and hoping people find them. This is a brute force tactic of financial shock and awe, designed to hammer your face and your message into everyone's feed until you become impossible to ignore. This exact strategy, seen with other controversial figures like Andrew Tate and Iman Gadzhi, creates the powerful illusion of massive organic influence, which then often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as real people follow the manufactured crowd. The lawsuit even highlights a specific and damning incident that allegedly demonstrates this fake it till you make it mindset in action, long before Capital Club was even conceived. In June of 2020, Luke allegedly published a press release that falsely named Steve Tan as his business partner. The suit claims this was a calculated and unauthorized move to borrow Steve's established, legitimate reputation in the e-commerce world to bolster his own burgeoning image. He was, in effect, trying to reputationally draft off of a successful entrepreneur without his knowledge or permission. The lawsuit argues this wasn't just an example of ambitious marketing. It was a foundational lie and a clear sign of the alleged deception that was to come. This entire persona is the engine of the business model. The influencer sells a dream, a shortcut to the life you desire. They create a community, a private club, where for a hefty fee you get access to that dream. The business is funded by these membership fees, which are then poured back into funding the lavish lifestyle and the aggressive marketing required to maintain the illusion, creating a perpetual motion machine of influence. The critical problem, as alleged in this devastating lawsuit, is when the line between funding the business and funding a personal fantasy becomes hopelessly blurred, and when the people who actually built and funded the machine get erased to protect the myth of the lone genius who did it all himself. This context is everything. The lawsuit isn't just accusing Luke Belmar of taking money he wasn't entitled to. It's accusing him of building his entire public identity on a shaky, exaggerated, and allegedly fraudulent foundation, all while using his partner's cash to construct the very stage he stood upon. Partnerships in business end all the time. It can be amicable, it can be acrimonious, and it often gets messy. But what is laid out in this federal lawsuit is not a messy business divorce. It is described as a swift, brutal, and meticulously calculated takeover. By late 2024, after allegedly pouring over $4 million and countless hours into building Capital Club into a global success, Steve Tan wanted to exit the partnership. The lawsuit states that Luke Belmar readily agreed to buy out Steve's stake in the company. On the surface, this should have been a standard, if complicated, business transaction. You engage lawyers, you get a third-party valuation of the company, you draft and sign contracts, and you move the funds through secure and verifiable channels. But that's not what allegedly happened, not even close. According to the lawsuit, Luke Belmar informed Steve Tan that in order to finalize the logistics of the buyout, he required full back-end access to every single component of the company's digital infrastructure. This included the administrative logins for the company emails, the master controls for the website and membership portal, the passwords to the payment processors like Stripe and Golance, and most critically, the access credentials to the various crypto wallets where company funds were being held. The pitch, as presented in the lawsuit, was a simple, plausible, logistical step. Give me the keys to the kingdom so I can access the funds and pay you for your half of it. Trusting the man who had been his business partner for years, Steve Tan allegedly complied. He handed over the digital keys to the entire empire he had not only co-founded, but had personally funded and helped to build from the ground up. He gave Luke everything he asked for, operating under the good faith belief that a multi-million-dollar wire transfer for his share of the company was imminent. Just days later, the trap allegedly snapped shut with breathtaking speed. Steve Tan found himself locked out of everything. His administrative access to the company's platforms was revoked. His corporate emails were shut down. He was unceremoniously booted from the very systems he had personally paid millions to create and implement. He was, for all intents and purposes, digitally erased from his own company, a ghost in the machine he had financed. And what about that multi-million-dollar buyout payment? According to the lawsuit, it never arrived. It was never coming. The lawsuit frames this entire sequence as a classic predatory bait and switch, a deceptive ruse designed for one single, devastating purpose: to seize 100% control of a multi-million-dollar company without paying a single dime for it. Steve alleges that the promise of a buyout was never genuine. It was simply a carrot dangled to fool him into willingly handing over total and absolute control of all company assets. Once Luke had the keys, the carrot vanished, and the door was slammed, locked, and bolted behind him. But the alleged betrayal, according to the court filings, gets exponentially worse. The lawsuit claims that while this digital coup was being planned and executed, Luke Belmar and his wife Laura were already secretly launching and operating a competing company called Gem Hunters. The lawsuit alleges that Gem Hunters wasn't a new venture built from scratch. It was allegedly a parasitic entity built using Capital Club's proprietary resources, its dedicated team, its intellectual property and course materials, its valuable customer data. and the very digital infrastructure that Steve Tan had paid millions to construct. The core allegation is that Luke was using the assets of their shared 50-50 company to secretly build a new 100% owned company from which he alone would profit. Gem Hunters, which focused on providing cryptocurrency trading signals, was marketed heavily to Capital Club's existing audience. It was an instant hit. The court filings claim this new secret venture generated approximately $10 million in subscription revenue. The lawsuit further alleges that based on data analysis, as many as 80% to 90% of Gem Hunters members may have come directly from the Capital Club ecosystem, effectively poaching the same loyal customers that Steve Tan had paid millions of dollars in marketing fees to acquire in the first place. The bottom line allegation here is mind-blowing in its scope. The lawsuit claims that Luke Belmar personally pocketed over $15 million from this competing venture, a venture allegedly built on the back of a company he only owned half of. The lawsuit paints this not merely as a breach of trust or a conflict of interest, but as a flagrant and illegal violation of a business partnership executed in secret while simultaneously plotting to lock his partner out of their original shared business. This alleged two-pronged attack, the fraudulent lockout from Capital Club and the secret parasitic launch of Gem Hunters, forms the core of the multi-million-dollar fraud claims. It portrays a total and complete takeover, where one partner is left with absolutely nothing but massive financial losses, while the other allegedly walks away with two thriving companies, tens of millions in cash, and all the infrastructure paid for by the very man he just kicked to the curb. If you believe this story needs to be seen, and that these allegations deserve to be heard, take a second to hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that this is an important story and helps more people see the evidence for themselves. Your support is what makes deep dives like this possible. Now let's follow the money. A lawsuit of this magnitude, with claims reaching into the tens of millions of dollars, isn't just about he said, she said. It's about evidence. It's about a digital paper trail of spreadsheets, bank statements, and blockchain transactions. After Steve Tan was allegedly locked out of his company, the lawsuit claims that a forensic review of the company's financial records began to reveal a deeply disturbing pattern. The numbers presented in the court filings paint a damning picture of alleged theft, deception, and systemic manipulation. Let's look at what the lawsuit specifically claims was uncovered. First, there were the mysterious, unexplained transfers. Auditors allegedly discovered a staggering $665,760 in unexplained wire transfers. The suit alleges that in March 2024, this massive sum was moved directly from company accounts to undisclosed recipients. It further alleges that these recipients were, in fact, Luke and his wife, Laura, and that the funds were for their own personal use and benefit. Over $500,000 just vanished from the company coffers with no clear or legitimate business purpose. The allegation here is plain and simple. This was a direct siphoning of company cash into their personal pockets. Second, the books were allegedly cooked. The forensic review claimed to have found $479,000 in falsified or entirely unaccounted for financial entries. In the world of business, this is a monumental red flag. Falsifying financial records is a classic method used to hide the true movement of money, to disguise theft, and to deceive a business partner about the actual financial health of the company. The lawsuit explicitly suggests a deliberate scheme was in place, one filled with anomalies, untraceable transfers, and internal inconsistencies, all designed to mislead and defraud. Third, there's the GoLance connection. The audit allegedly flagged over $450,000 that was routed through a freelance payment platform called GoLance. While using a platform like GoLance is perfectly normal for paying contractors, the suit implies this may have been used as another channel to make undocumented payments or to obscure where the money was really going. The critical question raised by this finding is, were these legitimate payments for services rendered to Capital Club, or was this a clandestine method to pay people working on the secret Gem Hunters project using Capital Club's cash? And fourth, in what is perhaps the most blatant allegation of all, the suit claims the company was used as a personal piggy bank. The audit allegedly uncovered $348,000 spent on luxury travel and other personal expenses for Luke and his wife, Lara. This is the classic textbook picture of corporate greed. While the company was being built on Steve Tan's multi-million-dollar investment and the subscription fees from their members, Luke was allegedly treating the company credit card like his own personal, unlimited slush fund. This alleged behavior speaks to a mindset where the line between company money and personal money had not just been blurred, but completely and utterly erased. Taken together, these four central financial pillars of the lawsuit amount to nearly $2 million in funds that are allegedly missing, unexplained, or grossly misappropriated. The lawsuit, officially filed in the U.S. District of Wyoming, accuses Luke Belmar, his wife Laura, and their company Capital Club LLC of a litany of serious charges: fraud, conversion, the legal term for theft of assets, breach of fiduciary duty, civil conspiracy, and unjust enrichment. Steve Tan is demanding not just the return of his money, but also significant punitive damages for the alleged malicious conduct. He is also formally asking the court for a full, court-supervised forensic accounting of all the businesses and, crucially, to freeze all disputed company funds and cryptocurrency wallets to prevent the money from disappearing while the case is ongoing. This is what a 21st century financial war looks like. It isn't fought with armies, but with forensic accountants and blockchain analysts. The lawsuit alleges that while Luke Belmar was publicly preaching about decentralization, transparency, and freedom from corrupt systems, he was privately engaging in a very old-school, centralized form of corporate raiding against his own partner. This lawsuit, as wild and specific as its allegations are, does not exist in a vacuum. For a large and growing community of online sleuths, critics, and former followers, the claims leveled against Luke Belmar do not come as a shock. To them, these allegations feel like the inevitable, explosive final act of a long-running play they've seen before, the fake guru playbook. This is where the story expands beyond a bitter fight between two business partners and becomes a cautionary tale about a systemic problem within the massive and largely unregulated influencer economy. Let's begin with Luke's much-touted backstory. A foundational element of his personal legend is the claim that he made tens of millions of dollars in the world of dropshipping before he ever became a major influencer. Yet, these claims have always been met with intense skepticism from those in the e-commerce industry, primarily due to a conspicuous lack of any real, verifiable proof for these gigantic numbers. In an online world where successful founders love to flash Shopify dashboards and celebrate revenue milestones, Luke's past has remained suspiciously vague and anecdotal. This lawsuit fits so neatly into a recognized and repeated playbook that it could be used as a case study. Let's break down the formula, because it is one you see used over and over again by online personalities. Step 1. Fabricate or exaggerate a backstory. You must first create a myth of incredible, self-made wealth. This is your foundation of authority. As the lawsuit alleges with the unauthorized 2020 press release, you can even take a shortcut by falsely attaching your name to credible, successful people to borrow their reputation and give your claims a veneer of legitimacy. Step 2. Build an audience with aggressive paid marketing. This is not slow, patient, organic growth. This is a shock and awe campaign. You spend a fortune on paid advertising. You potentially buy followers to create social proof, and you absolutely dominate social media feeds until your face and your message are inescapable. The goal is not to earn fame, but to manufacture it. Step 3. Sell the dream. Once you have the massive audience and the manufactured authority, you monetize it. You sell high-ticket courses, exclusive mentorships, and private communities like Capital Club. You understand that you are not really selling information, which is often freely available. You are selling access to a community, access to a lifestyle, and access to the secrets of the guru himself. Step 4. Erase the partners. The myth of the self-made lone wolf genius is incredibly powerful, but it is also fragile. It falls apart if the audience discovers that the entire operation was funded, built, and managed by someone else behind the scenes. Therefore, the contributions of business partners, investors, and early employees must be minimized, marginalized, or erased from the public narrative entirely. After the fallout, the lawsuit alleges that Luke began telling people he alone built Capital Club and that Steve left for jealous and selfish reasons. This is a classic tactic to retroactively control the story and preserve the myth. Step 5. Discredit your critics. When people start asking tough questions, when journalists expose inconsistencies, or when former partners file lawsuits, you go on the offensive. You paint your accusers as jealous haters who are simply trying to tear tear down your success. You rally your followers, who are already financially and emotionally invested in your story, to act as a defensive army, attacking the credibility of any and all critics. You might even, as Steve Tan has claimed, try to flip the script and tell everyone that you're the one being unfairly attacked. This playbook is not unique to Luke Belmar. It is a well-worn template. We have seen versions of it play out with countless online personalities who experience a meteoric rise and then crash and burn in a spectacular mess of lawsuits, exposés, and public disgrace. The allegations in this lawsuit, however, suggest a particularly bold and destructive application of the playbook. If these claims are proven true in court, Luke Belmar didn't just exaggerate his past or inflate his success. He allegedly hijacked a real, profitable, multi-million-dollar business funded by his partner, used its resources to secretly launch a competitor, and then stole the original business outright. It is the fake guru playbook on steroids, taken to its most extreme and felonious conclusion. This all raises a massive, deeply uncomfortable question for the millions of people who follow, admire, and pay figures like Luke Belmar. Who are you really listening to? Are you learning from a genuine entrepreneur with a verifiable track record of success? Or are you being influenced by a master marketer who is just exceptionally good at playing the game of influence? A game where the truth is often the first and most unfortunate casualty? From the dizzying heights of the influencer world to the defendant in a multi-million-dollar federal fraud lawsuit, the Luke Belmar story has taken a hard, public, and potentially irreversible turn. The case of Steve Tan versus Luke Belmar is more than just a business disagreement that got out of hand. It is a clinical dissection of a modern influencer empire, with every wire, gear, and hidden cog laid bare for the world to see. Let's just recap the devastating allegations pulled directly from the court documents. A business partner, Steve Tan, allegedly invests over $4 million of his own money to build the foundation and engine of Capital Club. The company becomes a runaway success. But behind the scenes, his partner, Luke Belmar, is allegedly siphoning company funds for personal luxuries while secretly building a competing company, Gem Hunters, from which he personally profits by over $15 million. And when the founding funding partner decides he wants to exit the business, he is allegedly tricked into handing over complete control with the false promise of a buyout, only to be systematically locked out and left with nothing but his losses. This is the narrative told in the lawsuit, supported by detailed financial claims. It is a story of an epic betrayal, a digital coup meticulously planned to seize a valuable company and its revenue streams. Luke Belmar built his entire brand on the idea that he is an outlier, a man who sees patterns and data that others cannot. He speaks endlessly about truth, data, and escaping systems of control and deception. But this lawsuit alleges that the only pattern he truly mastered was a classic, age-old pattern of fraud and deceit. Of course, it is crucial to state that at this stage, these are all allegations in a civil complaint. Luke Belmar and his legal team will have their opportunity to respond to these claims in a court of law. It's possible, though perhaps unlikely, that this is all a massive misunderstanding, or as some online have speculated, a wildly elaborate public relations stunt. But the sheer detail of the financial allegations, the severity of the charges, and the paper trail of evidence cited in the complaint suggest this is far more than just online drama. Now, the long legal war begins, but the court of public opinion is already in session. For the thousands of paying members of Capital Club and the millions more who followed Luke Belmar's every move, this lawsuit forces a difficult and painful question. Was the man they admired a financial visionary, or was the persona they bought into a grand illusion, funded by someone else's money and built on a foundation of lies? From aspirational hustle videos to damning federal court filings, the Luke Belmar story has been irrevocably flipped. The only question that remains is whether the entire empire he so carefully constructed is about to collapse under the weight of its own alleged deception. This story is still developing, and it raises major questions about accountability and transparency in the entire influencer industry. What do you think about the evidence alleged in this lawsuit? Is this a clear case of massive fraud, or do you believe there is another side to this story that we haven't heard yet? Drop your thoughts and analysis in the comments below. And if you want to stay on top of this case as it unfolds and see more investigations like it, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications.
I know you're not following what I'm saying anyway, right? That's okay, that doesn't matter. The real question is this: is all this legal? Absolutely fucking not.